Luxembourg is known for having a highly structured, well-funded system to help newcomers integrate. Millions of euros flow into programs designed to teach languages, provide housing, and offer a path to citizenship. Look at this population table. Focusing on the Syrian row, we see a shift from just 25 people in 2011 to 2,266 in 2020. But factoring in the wider Arabic-speaking population across the greater region, the true community footprint expands to an estimated 12,000. Yet on the ground, the physical reality doesn't match the state's integration promises. A significant portion of this population remains stuck in temporary refugee housing, facing severe bottlenecks that keep them isolated from the broader society. Despite the available state funding, the sheer volume of arrivals has overwhelmed the system. Without a unified way to navigate the bureaucracy, the community is left structurally isolated. Recent geopolitical events have turned this isolation into an acute crisis. Following the fall of the Assad regime, a sudden legal shockwave hit Europe. In direct response to the political transition, the Luxembourg government suspended 825 active Syrian asylum applications. The decisions on these cases are now delayed indefinitely. The immediate human cost is severe. Over 500 individuals find themselves completely undocumented, living in legal limbo with no official status to protect them. These people are now navigating complex international deportation laws entirely on their own, and they are doing it in a country where there is zero Syrian embassy presence to offer consular support. This creates a forced decision for the diaspora. Do they continue to rely on fragmented, informal social networks, or is it time to build a formal legal institution to represent their interests? Fragmented Facebook groups and word-of-mouth networks cannot survive a systemic legal crisis of this magnitude. To protect its most vulnerable members, the community must institutionalize. Let's evaluate the trade-offs of forming an ASBL, a recognized nonprofit, starting with the legal and asylum crisis. We compare the fragmented status quo against a formal ASBL. Under the status quo, individuals rely on overloaded local NGOs, like ASTI, or expensive immigration lawyers. The result is a series of isolated legal battles. Without recognized status, these individuals cannot legally work, and they face a consistently high risk of deportation. Now look at the formal ASBL. The community must raise capital and organize a board to hire dedicated legal counsel. The outcome changes. Instead of fighting alone, they gain collective bargaining power, negotiating directly with the Ministry of Immigration as a unified bloc. An ASBL translates individual vulnerability into systemic legal protection, securing defense for the hundreds of members who simply cannot afford their own representation. Next, we apply this matrix to the bureaucratic and consular void caused by the lack of a Syrian embassy. The status quo leaves an estimated 12,000 regional members paralyzed. Simple administrative tasks become impossible. They cannot legally marry, renew passports, or access civil registries. This administrative paralysis forces refugees to make a dangerous trade-off, often relying on expensive and risky gray market brokers just to secure basic documentation. The ASBL solution creates a legally recognized entity that can act as a formal proxy negotiator on behalf of the entire community. With this standing, the proxy can liaise directly with neighboring embassies in Brussels or Paris, establishing safe, official alternative pathways for documentation. But the input required from the community is heavy. Members have to overcome political trauma and the divisions imported from their homeland in order to trust a central association with their personal data. Trusting a formal proxy is the only logistical way to handle documentation for 12,000 people without resorting to the black market. Finally, we look at the third row of our matrix, socioeconomic integration. In the status quo, individuals are attempting to navigate Luxembourg's strict multilingual job market and expensive housing landscape entirely alone. As a result, highly skilled individuals get trapped in refugee foyers. This leads to rapid professional diskilling and a long-term reliance on state welfare. The ASBL model requires formally registering an NGO, which establishes the legal eligibility needed to receive state integration grants, like the Montagnane Initiative. That funding allows the community to build targeted solutions, like state-funded Arabic to Luxembourgish mentorship programs and shared community housing networks. The necessary trade-off is administrative. Community leaders must take on heavy overhead to manage government grants and report the required metrics back to the state. Enduring that friction is the required price to build a self-directed financial engine for the diaspora. Let's plot the available organizational options on an actionable blueprint to see what actually fits the current crisis. Informal Facebook groups sit in the bottom left quadrant: low urgency, low organization. They are fine for cultural sharing, but they completely lack legal and financial leverage. Meanwhile, the 825 suspended cases and the undocumented population sit in the top right quadrant: high urgency, requiring high organization. There is a glaring gap here. Informal networks cannot lobby a government, they cannot secure block funding, and they certainly cannot halt deportations. Success requires the community to set aside imported political divisions and focus strictly on pragmatic survival within Luxembourg. Cultural preservation is no longer the primary goal. Right now, institutionalization is a matter of strict legal survival. So who needs to take the first step? It falls to the already integrated Syrian professionals, the doctors, the engineers, the established workers, who have the bandwidth to build this framework. They must act because they possess the language skills, the financial capital, and the personal stability that those trapped in the foyers lack. The ultimate beneficiaries of this structure are the undocumented and the suspended asylum seekers, who currently have zero leverage of their own. The administrative effort required to build an ASBL pays out directly in the literal legal protection of the community's most exposed members. For Luxembourg Syrians, integration has become a collective institutional task.